Introversion is one of those words everyone thinks they understand until they actually try to explain it. People use it casually, almost instinctively. Someone says they're introverted, someone else says they're an extrovert, and everyone nods like the meaning is obvious. But most of the time, what people are really reacting to are stereotypes, not psychology. Introversion isn't about being quiet, it isn't about being shy, and it isn't about disliking people. Many introverts are socially capable, articulate, confident, and even charismatic. Some introverts speak in public, lead teams, or hold their own in conversations just fine. The difference isn't whether they can socialize. It's how their minds process the world, and how much stimulation they can handle before it starts to feel draining instead of energizing. The idea of introversion originally had nothing to do with social skill. It came from early psychology, where introversion was understood as a tendency to direct mental energy inward. Introverts naturally focus more on internal thoughts, reflections, and ideas. Extroverts tend to direct energy outward, toward people, activity, and stimulation. Neither is better. They are simply different ways of engaging with the same environment. Where confusion starts is when introversion is mistaken for shyness or social anxiety. Shyness is about fear. It's the fear of being judged, rejected, or evaluated negatively. Introversion is about preference. An introvert might enjoy social interaction, but only in limited doses. They don't avoid people because they're afraid. They step away because their mental system reaches overload faster. You can see this clearly at social events. An introvert might arrive energized, engaged, and present. They talk, laugh, and participate. But after a couple of hours, something shifts. The noise feels louder, conversations blur together. Small talk starts to feel repetitive. Nothing bad happened, but their mind feels full. That's usually when the introvert starts looking for a quiet corner, checking the time, or thinking about leaving, not because they hate the people there, but because their brain is asking for relief. Introverted brains tend to be more sensitive to stimulation. Noise, conversation, movement, and constant interaction all count as input. For an introvert, that input stacks up quickly. At a certain point, the mind doesn't feel energized anymore. It feels crowded. This is why introverts often feel exhausted after a full day of meetings, even if those meetings were productive and pleasant. This is also why introverts need alone time, and why that alone time isn't about isolation, it's about recovery. When an introvert is alone, their mind isn't empty. It's actually doing the opposite. Conversations replay. Things that were said get analyzed, ideas get connected. Moments that seemed small at the time suddenly carry more meaning. Alone time allows the mental noise to settle so clarity can return. That's why an introvert might go for a walk alone after work, or sit quietly with music on, or scroll without really looking at anything. From the outside, it can look like they're doing nothing. Internally, they're resetting. Introverts don't think less than others, they think more deeply. And depth takes time. This depth-first processing shows up clearly in how introverts speak. Introverts often think before they talk. They form an idea internally, refine it, and then decide whether it's worth saying. In a fast-moving group conversation, this can be a disadvantage. By the time the introvert has shaped a thoughtful response, someone else has already spoken, changed the topic, or moved the discussion forward. This is why introverts are often quiet in meetings. Not because they aren't paying attention, but because they're processing everything that's being said. Later, sometimes hours or even days later, the introvert will realize exactly what they should have said. And that can be frustrating, especially in environments that reward instant reactions. In many workplaces, speed is mistaken for confidence. Whoever speaks first appears decisive. Whoever talks the most appears engaged. Introverts don't naturally play that game. They'd rather speak once with clarity than talk continuously without direction. Unfortunately, that often means their contributions are overlooked unless the environment makes space for them. This difference in communication style is one of the main reasons introverts are misunderstood. They may be seen as cold, distant, or uninterested when in reality they are deeply engaged. They listen closely. They notice tone changes. They pick up on subtle cues. They just don't externalize every thought in real time. You can see this in friendships too. An introvert might not text constantly or call just to check in. They might go days without reaching out, not because they don't care, but because the relationship feels stable in their mind. When they do reach out, it's often intentional. They want to talk about something meaningful, not just fill silence. Introverts also tend to value depth over breadth in relationships. They usually prefer a small circle of close connections rather than a wide network of acquaintances. Small talk can feel draining because it consumes mental energy without offering much substance in return. It's not that introverts dislike people, they dislike interactions that feel shallow or repetitive. This selectivity often leads to strong, long-lasting relationships. When introverts commit, they commit deeply. They remember details. They show up consistently. They may not express care loudly, but they express it reliably. Their version of affection often looks like presence, loyalty, and thoughtfulness rather than grand gestures. Another trait commonly associated with introversion is overthinking, and there's a reason for that. Introverts are naturally reflective. They replay experiences in their minds, analyze conversations, and think about what things mean. This can be a powerful advantage. It allows for insight, creativity, and long-term planning. But reflection has a shadow side. Without balance, it turns into rumination. A comment someone made gets replayed over and over. A decision feels impossible because every outcome has been examined too thoroughly. Self-criticism becomes louder than necessary. This isn't because introverts are weak or indecisive. It's because their minds are built to stay with thoughts longer. Healthy introversion isn't about shutting this down. It's about knowing when to stop thinking and start acting. Not to become more extroverted, but to keep reflection from becoming a trap. Modern life makes this harder. Today's culture strongly favors extroverted traits. Being visible is rewarded. Being available is expected. Open offices are common. Collaboration is constant. Social media encourages performance, quick reactions, and continuous engagement. None of these are inherently bad, but they place introverts at a constant disadvantage. An introvert might do their best work alone, quietly, without interruption. But if the environment values constant discussion over focused output, that work can go unnoticed. Over time, this can make introverts feel like they're underperforming even when they aren't. Many introverts grow up believing something is wrong with them. They're told to speak up more, network more, be more outgoing. While social skills are useful for everyone, introversion itself isn't a problem that needs fixing. It's a different operating system. This becomes especially clear when you look at leadership. There's a common belief that leaders must be loud, dominant, and constantly present. But some of the most effective leaders are introverted. They listen before speaking. They think before deciding. They create space for others rather than filling it themselves. Their authority isn't loud, it's steady. People trust them because they don't speak impulsively. When they do speak, it carries weight. Confidence doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just shows up prepared. It's also important to separate introversion from social anxiety. They're often confused, but they're not the same. Introversion is a preference for lower stimulation. Social anxiety is a fear response. Mixing these ideas leads people to mislabel themselves and misunderstand their own needs. In romantic relationships, introversion can also be misunderstood. An introvert may need time alone even when deeply connected to someone. They might retreat after intense emotional moments or busy days. This isn't emotional distance, it's regulation. When introverts don't get enough mental space, they don't become distant because they care less. They become distant because they're overwhelmed. When this difference is understood, many conflicts disappear. What looks like withdrawal is often self-maintenance. At its core, introversion isn't about hiding from the world. It's about engaging with it intentionally. Introverts move more slowly, but they notice more. They speak less, but often with greater precision. They don't chase stimulation, they choose it carefully. In a culture obsessed with speed, volume, and visibility, introversion often works quietly in the background. But quietly doesn't mean insignificantly. Many ideas, systems, and solutions come from people who spend more time thinking than talking. Introversion isn't something to overcome, it's something to understand. Once you do, a lot of things start to make sense. Why you need alone time. Why shallow interactions feel exhausting. Why depth matters more than frequency. And why you don't need to become louder, faster, or more outgoing to be effective, respected, or fulfilled. The world doesn't need fewer introverts. It needs them exactly as they are.